20th, 6:30, we're in council chambers. And before we begin, I'm going to go over the ground rules by which this board operates, and also I'm going to read the agenda. So I'll start with the agenda. Dig up the ground rules. Okay, it's May 20th, time 6:30, we're in room 219, City Council Chambers, 95 Pleasant Street, Gardner, Mass. Any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium subject to the reasonable requirements of the chair as to the number, placement, and operation of equipment used so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Any person intending to make such a recording shall notify the chair forthwith. All documents referenced or used during the meeting must be submitted in duplicate to the clerk. All documents shall become part of the official record of the meeting. So I'll ask the question, is anyone going to be videoing or recording in any way? The answer is no. Okay, the agenda itself. Case 2022-01-01, it's a continuance special permit. Jonathan Bombachi, 163-165 Pine Street, parcel ID R22-6-8, special permit violation update. Case 2024-09-03, a continuance special permit. BCF Investments LLC, 75 Oak Street, parcel ID M27-24-57, change a two-family to a three-family dwelling. Case 2025-04-01, a continuance special permit. Stephen Sine, 0 M Street, parcel ID M22-25-5, construct two multifamily dwellings. Case 2025-05-01, a variance, Gary Collette and Joe Collette, 21-19 Stephanie Drive, parcel ID M17-15-3, individualize the driveways per condo, Lot C. Case 2025-05-02, a variance, Gary Collette and Joe Collette, 21-19 Stephanie Drive, parcel ID M17-15-3, individualize the driveways per condo, Lot E. Case 2025-05-03, variance, Gary Collette and Joe Collette, 21-19 Stephanie Drive, parcel ID M17-15-3, individualized driveways per condo, Lot D. Case 2025-05-04, a variance, Jonathan Augusto, 353 Otter River Road, parcel ID C37-7-3, second driveway to access a building. I know it's a building on another lot, but okay, and what else we have here? Then we will read any announcements or correspondence, and then acceptance of or corrections to minutes of a previous meeting. Submitted, Ray LaFawn, Chair. Okay, so before we begin, and sitting on tonight's cases, to my far right is Lori Witter. To my right immediate, Richard Hanks. Myself, Ray LaFawn, as Chair. To my left, Mel Cornett. To Mel's left, David Antea. And to David's left, Robert Rice. Who will be celebrating his first zoning meeting tonight? Second, sorry. I mustn't have seen you in the first one. Okay, so before we begin tonight, here are the ground rules. Gardner, 4 members out of 5 of the Zoning Board of Appeals must be present to conduct a legal hearing. Applications will normally be heard in the sequence in which they appear in the public notice. The board is under no obligation to adhere to the sequence. All hearings shall be open to the public and no person shall be excluded unless he or she is considered to be a hindrance to the workings of the board. An applicant may appear in his or her own behalf or be represented by agent or attorney. The applicant or his or her representative shall present the case to the board. Representatives of the city shall be heard. Abutters to the property present shall be heard. Those in opposition to the application shall be heard. The board must render its decision regarding variance requests within 100 days after the application is duly filed in the office of the city clerk. The board regarding special permits must conduct a public hearing within 65 days after the application was duly filed in the office of the city clerk. The board must render its decision regarding special permit within 90 days after the closing of the public hearing. All 4 members of the board must vote in favor of the variance of special permit for it to be granted and approved. The right to appeal the decision of this board is provided for in Chapter 48 of the Zoning Act. This information is available in the office of the city clerk. No variance or special permit or any extension, modification, or renewal thereof shall take effect until notification from the city clerk that 20 days have elapsed after the decision has been filed in that office and no appeals have been filed and is recorded in the registry of deeds for the county or the district. The board requests that each person identify himself or herself as name and address before addressing the board. Sitting on tonight's hearing, and I already did that, so the meeting is going to be taped and videotaped. Does anyone object to the videotaping of this meeting? There's no opposition. Okay. Okay, the first case, 2022-01-01, continuing special permit, Jonathan Bombachi, and I believe it's Attorney Christine Tree will be presenting.
Chairman LaFawn, excuse me. The building commissioner he was going to be present. He excused himself, he's on call, but he left this document for each member. He told me to pass it around.
Pass that out, please. Attorney Tree, I'll read this. It's referencing Mr. Bombachi's case.
Okay.
So I'll read it into the minutes after your presentation.
Okay. I don't know what that document is.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No.
You have now.
Mariel, do you have another one?
No, he only told me to submit it on his behalf, that's all.
I'll read Mr. Hanks. You can have this one.
Here, I got it. Thank you.
Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. Board members, Attorney Christine Tree, 515 Main Street, Fitchburg, Mass., representing the Jonathan Bombachi Simplified Management. So we're here on a review, and just, I'm going to be back and forth because Ms. Agron has asked me to be in front of the microphone.
I'm the one who talks about that.
So I'm going to have to go back and forth when I change slides. A site visit was conducted in between the last 2 meetings with certain board members present. And the plan that was shown in April was discussed. This is the April plan in front of you. After, in pursuant to the comments during the site plan, this plan was revised a little bit. I'm going to move to the next slide. So in this revised plan, the retaining wall at the top of the property has been moved closer to the boundary line. This will add about $5,000 to the project, but as a result of this change, there is an additional space to maneuver. And the additional space to maneuver is for that space number 8 that is slightly diagonal at the top of the plan. The question which arose to me, and I'm sure board members, is why didn't we move it all the way up to the line? There is a tree there. The board members may have seen the difficult situation with the neighbor on that side.
Christine, could I ask you a question before you go any farther?
Yes.
Mr. Umbachi mentioned at the site meeting that potentially he would extend the wall all the way out to the end, instead of having it come in at that angle, to go all the way out and to, I guess there's a tree out there somewhere,
That's the
and
tree.
connect it.
That's-
Is that still the plan, or is it going to be this one?
This is extended out as far as it goes until it hits the tree.
No, I'm talking in the other direction, towards the rear of the property. He had talked about extending the wall all the way to the end
Right.
and connecting it, so it's no longer a jaunt,
Mhm.
but it's a straight extra 4 feet or so.
And again, it's.
That's what he said, I don't.
I asked this question, the response is because of the tree. The neighbor and the tree prevents just a straight line across the boundary. It does add, like I said, an additional space to maneuver in and back, so that it is an easier use of that space at the top right, the diagonal one. Bollards, I think that should say bollards, not pollards, but safety poles will be added around the stairway and the end of the stairway to prevent any issue with inadvertent contact with the vehicle. This will give at least one space per unit on site, as was the condition under the special permit. It improves the maneuvering situation of that diagonal space at the top. And we have the plan for the off-street parking at 307 Pine Street as well.
Before you, well, you probably have to zoom in for me, which, I'm just trying to get that dimension from the distance from the parking spaces over towards the stairwell, 19'6".
19.6.
Thank you. Now, so what you have for maneuverable space, was that not a space before? How did you gain space there in order to be able to back out of space 8 into where it's the purple, where it says additional maneuverable space? Did you readjust 1 through 5 or 6?
No. No, there was no adjustment of 1 through 6. This top area was never marked as a space on all of the most recent plans. It is just leftover space, and then again, that again is the April plan. It's leftover additional space, so that flat wall was moved closer to the top boundary line.
Okay, so do you know what that distance is from where space 1 into that maneuverable space to the actual retaining wall. It looks like half the depth of a parking spot.
Just gonna go.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was
We need
looking
clarity.
at my notes
Because it
from
wasn't
questions. I don't have that
The trees.
noted, but if I look,
Yeah.
I have the distance to the lot line,
I didn't think there was
but
gonna
not the
be.
width of that non-space, but I would agree it appears to be about half the
That's what
width.
I was-
Yeah, so then the premise is someone
That's what I
would
was
pull
asking.
into parking spot 8
I don't
come
think
back-
this is
I'll come
correct.
back.
and then
Oh, me too.
hopefully
I'm not done.
utilize that space to turn and come back down. Come-
Yes, so if I go to the plan that was modified after the visit, that retaining wall at the top has been moved closer to the neighbors, so there is additional space for space number 8 to back into that spot or pull in, back out. Personally, I think I would pull into space 8 head-on, and when I left, I would back out into the maneuvering space and then pull headfirst and out of the parking lot.
All right, Christine, I want to revisit this again, because when we were there on Saturday, the tree that you're talking about was at the end of that line, or at the very back of the parking lot. And what he had stated is he couldn't get a full parking space in there because of the tree. But the tree was in the back, and he was saying that in order to get more maneuvering space, he was going to extend the wall all the way to the end. And that's what he said, so we do need some clarity, and we were all there to hear that.
And that jog that's in, like this, down, this, that was gonna be pushed back. The tree, he said, he owns half the tree, so they don't wanna cut it. But that would take that portion, I'll say, where it's like 6 3/7 or whatever, and then the end, where that wall was gonna move back, so it'd almost be a straight wall
Right,
with,
Well, that's what he said, straight.
that's what
with
he
no
said.
jog in it.
Wherever you went has way more parking.
I know, I just looked up, I'm like,
Yeah.
And better water.
We're gonna have to look at that site and view it.
Yeah, so, let me bring this.
Plane tickets, Mariella.
So, with the updated plans before the site visit, there were 2 versions. This is one of them. Oh, you can't see that. Very
I like this
odd.
one better.
I'd love to be able to give you that one. All right.
Yes,
That's it.
that's the one that he said that he was gonna do.
Yeah, it
And like-
doesn't give him enough to put a space in there, but it widens
That was,
that space, so it gives him more turning or maneuverability.
but if you can't get a neighbor to agree to take down a tree, that might be an issue.
No, the tree is at the very end.
Okay.
So my,
So-
my goal for this proceeding is, after this proceeding is over, to submit a request for modification of the existing special permit. And my goal is to get all of the comments, requests, opinions, or other thoughts on the plan as we can today, and then submit, and then there would be an actual proceeding on allowance or disallowance of a modification of the special permit. I looked at both of these plans, and I also prefer this one because it's 7 straight parking spaces on the back. Very easy, right?
Right.
Well,
You
he
would-
said
you
that,
would-
he did say
Mm-hmm.
that the 7th parking space he couldn't get because he was short. That's why, and he couldn't move the tree.
Right,
So he was gonna give up that parking spot
Mhm.
and use it for maneuvering for the other one.
Right.
And that's the way we left it on Saturday.
And that's how we ended up with the first plan that I showed you.
Well, yeah, we just need some clarity there, because
Okay.
that doesn't,
That's not what he said.
that's not what we were presented on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, and we asked him to come in with the most updated plan and that you would have that information. And he said he would take care of that.
So it's, from your viewing, you think that the tree is farther towards the back and that
Yes.
the jog could happen further towards the back,
He
allowing
said
more
he
space?
could take it all the way down and not
Mhm.
have the jog,
Mm-hmm,
because I guess he got some pushback from the contractors
mm-hmm.
that putting the jog in is much more difficult than expanding out the wall.
That it would simply be the, so, what I'm going to ask that we do is, I'm going to take that down as the comment, and that he either clarify what he's going to do, or the location of the tree, or how that issue is going to be resolved.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The other thing he had mentioned too, as kind of part of this, was what he was gonna do for the buddy parking.
Mhm.
Because he was going to elevate it a little bit, and, what was the block he was gonna put in at the end?
I call it Jersey Barrier District.
Like the Jersey, barrier. And, he did mention, unfortunately, that the neighbor there has his, support structure there and hasn't, or doesn't wanna move it. So, but that was part of the plan too, to have that buddy parking, squared away.
Yeah, he was gonna change the grade because you're familiar with it. It's like this,
It
It's
is.
very steep.
very
It is.
steep. So he was gonna put the barrier somewhere up here and, or even here, and he's gonna backfill it, you know, to put him, and then lower, so that you won't be in the decline that it is now.
So-
And it would be more, will it be safer, more drivable, if that's a word, and allow more maneuverability, but, and I asked him to have all that on his plan,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't see that there, or what changes.
No, I don't see that either, but adding that detail in is certainly something that can be done with the submission. I do know that there has been an issue with the scaffolding being over the property line, and some requests to the city to assist in citing the neighbor for being over the property line. I know that sometimes that, depending on what the issue is, sometimes it is the city's issue and sometimes it is not. Sometimes it's the subject of a civil no trespass order and an order to remove. But whatever needs to happen, the parking needs to be functional for this building. So if that's the way it needs to go, it needs to go.
And I think he was also speaking about the relationship with the neighbor to the left, the abandoned house,
Yes.
and the property line, he says to the best of his knowledge, literally
Right.
goes up within inches of that house and that wall.
Mhm.
So in my mind, when he says, in his opinion or his ability, it excuse me, goes up, it best be certain where that property line is.
Mhm.
You know, because that could present new issues in the future if something happens. And, you know, we want to prevent there's no safety issues, there will be legal issues. And so that needs to be clarified of exactly where that property line is. Because he was pretty adamant that I almost own that property that he's on, you know. But you can't work from that.
No.
We need to know where it is.
So that can be resolved by having a surveyor come out and stake those two areas. Is there any other question or concern about the 163 Pine Street plan?
Excuse me?
About this plan, is there any other question or concern?
No,
Okay.
Any other questions? You can
no, I'm good.
No,
take any. Do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Further?
No.
No, and I would just suggest, that if you get a chance, maybe drive by there.
I did.
That as well.
You saw
That buddy spot is,
that driveway to the right of the house,
Mhm.
pretty significant.
I don't know how people get out of that in wintertime.
No.
gotta be
No.
on the lake.
Okay, then
So-
my board members have none, so I'll open it up, see if anybody has any
Well,
questions.
is she
Mhm.
done?
What?
Are you finished?
I would just, this was the 307 Pine Street offer. I know that the board has had, has questioned whether or not this provides worthwhile parking to the lot. This is a modification from the previous plan in that the rear 7 parking spaces have been moved up a little bit so that they are 5 feet off the property line. We did get a measurement between the garage and the house, and that was 30 feet. And the moving of the spaces up from the bottom boundary line means they are a bit closer to the top boundary line. So they are not compliant at the top as far as that being considered an access driveway. Again, I believe this was about 1,200 feet from the subject property. There was the offer to provide up to 5 parking spaces, either as overflow parking, emergency parking, consistent parking dedicated to the use of 163 Pine Street, to be proposed through an easement to run with each property. If this is worthwhile to the board members, if it adds to the viability of the project, if it provides a benefit to the residents of 163, 165 Pine, and it is the tipping point which makes it an allowable project versus not an allowable project, the applicant continues to be willing to offer this. This is an abandoned 2-family structure. There is not going to be more than 2 units at this property, so there are not more than 4 spaces required. 2 are in the garage and are existing. 2 would be in the back, and then there are 5 more available.
Christine, the biggest concern I've always had is the proximity. We're talking, God, it's at least a quarter of a mile or so away from 163. And to expect people to park there during a snowstorm and then walk that far back and forth, I suspect would be challenging to enforce that, and I don't know how they would. Plus, I'm not sure what other options they'd have if they're not allowed on-street parking. So, again, I'm just not convinced of the viability.
And I think an issue on top of what Mr. Cornet said is, if you have somebody who has some kind of physical disability, I'm not gonna say, designated as handicap, but some kind, as you saw, I came in with a crushed leg because my right leg, I would not wanna walk a quarter mile with that tonight. So if you've got somebody that is not up to par, and they have to walk from there either to or fro, that presents an issue, I think, in terms of, is it the best option? I mean, unless somebody that's parking behind the house wants to give up their space and move over there, I don't think that will happen. So, I mean, if you wanna still present that, or if Mr. Bombachi wants to present it, I'd ask that you put an offer, or here's a proposal using 307 and here's what can happen, and it can be either emergency parking or whatever offers, but the main thrust is the parking, the permanent parking.
It is. You know, at 163, there would be, each unit would have an assigned parking space, with Unit 1 having the 2 buddy parking spaces. Unit 1, I think, was the unit that had the easy, I'm not going to say it qualifies as accessible, but it was the easiest accessed unit. And certainly, we could consider a provision like giving priority to any handicapped accessible residents to that Unit 1 in the buddy parking, and or the buddy parking.
So, I mean, that could be in your proposal. And I think we're putting everything on the table that we can here, seeing what the issues are, everything. And I'll put it back on the table, and it was talked about is, he does have one department vacant. And we talked about going from 8 to 7. That would eliminate a lot of the parking issues. Now, and that's, I'm not saying he has to do that or whatever, but it's an option that's on the table. It has been discussed, so it's still on the table. You know, he can make his final decision of what he wants to do, but it's not off the table.
I appreciate the comment. And I just want to remind the board that we had inquired into the Haywood Commons to see if perhaps that we could lease or by a similar easement have parking spaces there. And the response was, although they had excess parking, it was needed for emergency vehicles, and they were not willing to make that arrangement. Unfortunate, but I'm just trying to tell the board it's not an option that we can present at this time.
Okay. I'll ask my members if they have any questions right at this point.
No, actually, through your discussion, some of them were answered as far as the regrading and.
Mr. Hanks?
I think last time we looked at this, there was a potential issue of that there would be a pre-existing nonconformity on that lot. Is that still the case?
On 307, yes. So there's pre-existing non-conforming because the lot is non-conforming. So the existing driveway is non-conforming, but it's pre-existing non-conforming. The creation of the new parking spaces, we did say that as far as regular zoning setbacks, it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot. But with regards to parking spaces, what the regulation says is 5 feet off the boundary line. And we are 5 feet off on either side. As to the newly created parking area with the 7 spaces in the rear, the non-conforming portion of this is the access driveway at the top. It is, with the pushback, too narrow. Now, I can look at this, and I can say, well, on the beginning side where we have 3 spaces, it is conforming right there. And you pull straight into that other space on the other side, and the middle is conforming. The middle width is conforming. So I would make that argument. That's the argument I would make, but I fully acknowledge that if you're looking at the back parking, that last space is too close to the boundary line as far as an access driveway. Up until the beginning of that space, it's fine.
So there's no contour lines on this, but how's the topography on this? Does it drop quite severely on the back, like further down Pine Street?
It drops in the back. It drops in the back. There's no topography lines for me to give you a measurement on that. It certainly does not drop as far as 163 does. 163 is like a cliff.
It's significant.
Yeah, this slopes towards the back.
Did anyone determine the amount of coverage you're gonna have with impervious material?
No, but the limit is 85%. The limit is 85% on a residential property. This is not a multifamily, so it's not subject to the lower limit. If I'm looking what is green space, it is the space behind the last parking spaces. So I would say we're very close to having that 85% impervious space limit being hit. So if we were to propose this as, and I think we will, as part of the petition for modification, then we need to place that measurement on the plan. And if we have 15% green space at the back, you know, we'll be okay, and if not, we'll need to ask for relief on that. This proceeding would ask for permission to modify the special permit at 163, 165 Pine. There is the thought of whether we need to combine that with the relief, whatever it is that it needs for 307 Pine, if the parking is going to be created. Until this property is taken, you know, it was an abandoned house. So if there is any relief that is needed in order to resume it, we're going to have to ask for that relief at the same time, I would think.
No, but you have to put in deeded right-of-ways and so on for access, written into the deeds and so on, so that if this property is ever sold, those parking spaces are basically tied to 163.
The easement deed is the form of right, and it would run with the land. So it would have a benefited parcel, and it would have a burdened parcel. The benefited parcel is 163 Pine. It gets something. So it gets the right of access, it gets those marked spaces, and it gets the promise of the owner of 307 Pine that it's going to maintain that parking lot and parking area. And we had talked at a prior meeting about what those conditions might be, including making sure striping is maintained, removal of snow, salting or sanding, lighting maintenance, regular access, maintaining the property as far as maintaining any cracks or anything in the pavement to be kept in good condition, and that right and any right for reimbursement for that, which was negotiated between the two properties. I know they're friendly now, but you know, they'll decide whether or not to include a reimbursement provision in there, which seems reasonable. That would be embodied in an easement deed which runs with the land, which will go on public record at the Registry of Deeds. It will bind all succeeding property owners of both properties until both property owners get together and agree to change it. And if they do, they would violate the terms of the special permit, unless they came back here.
Okay.
That's correct. Thank you.
And it is actually all in here.
That what?
There's a draft.
Do you have any more questions, Mel?
No.
David?
No, good questions you already
You're all
asked.
set? Sorry, you're all set?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Received the letter?
There's the letter.
So I'm going to note that the building issue that has been blocking everything, that's the second means of egress, has been repaired, which is great.
You mentioned now
and-
the second means of egress, and we talked about that new stairway in the back very briefly. But while we were there with Mr. Bombachi, he says actually he's gonna really try to prevent anybody using it. And so if he is, I mean, then we have to know if he is going to definitely say it's there, but you can't use it. And then it has to be signs designating, I think, non-usable or something. That has to be, figured out what he's going to do, but he said technically, he has some concerns, but he's gonna try to prevent anybody using either egress or ingress.
So, a second means of egress, and again, this is, really a building code issue, but if it's a second means of egress that are necessary, it could certainly be labeled emergency use only. But I don't think we could do anything to lock it or prevent somebody from actually using it. Maybe put an alarm on it if used, which does prevent people from using it unless an emergency is happening. But I don't think that would conflict with the building
No,
code. And
I think if it's
Mr.
marked
Hanks
as
can-
emergency use only, et cetera,
Mhm.
it's still available for use if need
Right.
be. So I would like to read this letter from Mr. Zupa. It's being submitted now as part of this case. And it's addressed to Ray LaFawn, Chairman, and board members, Gardner City Hall, Room 101, 115 Pleasant Street, Gardner, Mass. Issue regarding 163, 165 Pine Street update. Dear Mr. Chairman and board members, I am writing to provide an update on the above referenced property. Building permit B25-134 to repair and reconfigure the rear second means of egress received the final passing inspection on May 13, 2025, and was closed out successfully. Permit B22-107 has not received the final inspection, as all special permit violations must be satisfied for this permit to be closed out. B24-717 is the building permit associated with the relocation of the retaining wall. This work has not yet begun and no inspections have been performed. IC-24-43 and TCO-24-9 expired on May 20th, 2025. New certificates have not yet been applied for, and re-inspections of the interior means egress violations have not taken place. Sincerely or respectfully submitted, Thomas Zupa, Building Commissioner or Zoning Enforcement Officer. So, I mean, there's still some open items, and, I mean, that's been ongoing, but this is, it shows that a lot of them have been corrected and closed. There's still several here that need to be addressed and taken care of.
Absolutely. The primary one, we can't take care of until this is resolved, the primary building permit, because the special permit conditions must be satisfied. But today was the expiration date I see on the temporary certificates of occupancy, so what we'll do is have the owner apply for an extension of those.
And I think we've mentioned it before, but before the board votes on this project, we will request from the building commissioner a letter similar to this that's saying all open issues have been satisfied, no outstanding inspections, or certificates, or whatever, so it'd be a clean bill of health. Yeah, we'll ask that from Mr. Zupa.
Just thinking about the timing of that, we would want the vote to approve or deny a modification of the special permit before we begin construction of that revised wall, which means the parking will not yet be in existence. We'll have to pull a new building permit for that wall. That will have to be constructed and inspected. So at the time the vote on modification takes place, we're still going to have this outstanding issue.
Let me address that. This is my thought. That will be an outstanding issue, because that, you don't want to invest the funds to get all that done, and if the board votes no, it's not a good investment. But we would like to see a signed contract from the contractor who's going to construct a new wall, a quote for the price. And so really, everything is signed, I'll call signed, sealed, and delivered, except for the work. But we have the document says, and we need a start date and a tentative finish date. And then the final inspection, once it's in, Mr. Zupa can conduct the final inspection. But if that doesn't happen, that's what negates the whole thing.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, that's the closest we can get to having, or requiring the applicant to say, build it before we look at it. I think gives him the opportunity to get all the documents in place, signed, and then ready to go if the board votes in favor. If not, then, you know, it's another effort. But I think that's how I would like to approach it, and that's what I would suggest and recommend that as a condition if the board is gonna go for.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate the comments. Hopefully I've written them all down.
You know, and I'm looking at the audience here, and I don't see anybody here that's really associated with 163, 165 Pine. Now, is anyone here concerned or associated with 163, 165 Pine Street? There is no one, so I'm not gonna go through the litany, you know, and opening it up. Then we'll move on to another case, or let you finish up if you need to finish.
No, I would just ask that, I think the appropriate procedure, because we are in a review proceeding, is to continue the review without a finding at this point in time, pending submission of an application for a modification of the existing special permit.
Don't hear that. We're gonna make for a continuance to keep going.
I will make a motion to continue this case.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
I-
Aye. Opposed? No opposition. Continue to June. Does that fit
Okay.
into your calendar?
My calendar is unfortunately busy all the time.
Real full, real full.
I do hold open a place for this board specifically every month.
If for some reason June doesn't work out, again, I'll ask right now, we can have the option to go to July if need be. So that's really a modification to your motion. So it'll either be June or July, and you'll submit documentation that will tell us which one is ready to go.
Very good.
Okay? All those in favor of allowing for that extension to
Aye.
July if need be? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board members.
thank you, Attorney Tree.
She's not going very far.
Up next, Attorney Tree.
Now, let me see who we're gonna do now. DCF.
That's what I understood.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure.
That's what I heard. But who knows?
Okay, the next case before the board is case number 2024-09-03. It's a continuance special permit. It's BCF Investment LLC, 75 Oak Street. Change a two-family to a three-family dwelling. Attorney Tree, are you the agent or representative for BCF?
I am BCF Investments as well
Thank
as
you.
Goa Ventura Fidel
Okay,
and
you may
Nora
begin.
Harris. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It has been some time before we have spoken substantively on this case. We have been looking for a parking plan to be redesigned, following some comments from board members, some comments from Mr. Oliva and the engineering department. That revised plan has been submitted to you. I wanted to review a little bit about the property and the project and then talk about the plan. And
Okay.
unfortunately, I will be again back.
This one's BCF, there you go.
So this was an abandoned three-family property that was purchased by my client. It was renovated. It had an existing driveway along the left-hand side, very long driveway. We had come to the board in 2021 looking to get a special permit to have it, again, reinstated as a three-family. That ended up being withdrawn without prejudice. Again, we were looking at what would the parking be, and the renovation was successfully completed and put into use as a two-family, which is allowed by right. The third floor has been renovated but is not in use. It does not have certain kitchen components, so it's not usable as a dwelling unit. This is the exterior after renovation improved.
Do you want to look at this?
We are smack dab in the middle of the GR3 district. So this is in a district where three families are allowed by special permit. And as you can see, Oak Street, which I know is very familiar to the chair and other members, is a mixed-use neighborhood. It has 7 three-families. There are a number of very similar, almost identical buildings going up the right-hand side of the street. This is one of them. There are 5 single-family dwellings in the same area. And then we have 4 multi- or two-family dwellings and 2 commercial buildings. So there's a number of various uses. And as far as the use goes, which I don't think is under much contention in the board, with the board, it's a use that is appropriate to the neighborhood and consistent with not only its historical use, but other uses in the neighborhood. This was the plot plan, the survey that was originally recorded. You can see Oak Street on the left, on the top is the driveway, and the property has remained without change in the boundaries since it was built. I will note for board members who have not visited it, there is a very tall ledge outcropping in the back of the property, which makes it pretty much a scoot by the back of the property between the building and the rock ledge.
If I understand, that ledge actually pretty much extends that whole side of Oak Street going down the back.
Yes. And so this is a property, and there are some properties in the neighborhood who can make a little use of that backyard, but this one could not without a major construction equipment that is not going to fit back there. We had given some examples of other parking arrangements with the other multifamily dwellings in the neighborhood. Again, there are a number of buildings that seem to be built at the same time. They all have this long driveway on the left. And here's some similar ones. The one on the far right is the subject property. And that's an example of the outcropping behind the house. The key focus in this application has been the parking. So in order to add the third unit, we were attempting to add 2 spaces to the right-hand side of the property. And I'm just going to note, this would make approximately 5 spaces on the property, 3 cars can fit in the long existing driveway on the left, and we're proposing to add 2 spaces on the right. There is discretionary and non-discretionary provisions within the zoning ordinance for this. This is a change of use for a pre-existing non-conforming building. And with that change, then non-discretionarily, in other words, set out in the ordinance, the only thing that can be requested is the additional parking needed for the change in use, not going back and looking at the whole building and requiring 6 spaces, only 2 more for the 1 additional unit.
So now, what I'm reading up there, they're just talking about non-conforming uses, not necessarily a non-conforming structure. You said that you're relying on a non-conforming structure.
Mm-hmm. I did. Let me just pull out the ordinance for a moment and look at it again. But I will say that, if we're looking at a non-conforming use, this is a use with a insufficient lot area that has existed since prior to zoning and then was abandoned. So I'm just going to read, and I think I did print it out directly there. For all zoning districts except COM1, a change in use where the existing use, or in the case of a vacancy, the next previous use, which does not apply at this time, so the existing use is a 2-family, did not provide for the number of on-site parking spaces required by this chapter, then the proposed use shall only have to provide an additional number of parking spaces equal to the increase, if any, between the number required under this chapter for the existing use and the number required for the proposed use. So I did state pre-existing, but the regulation, the ordinance itself does not. It only refers to a change of use from an existing use to a new use. But I thank Mr. Hanks, as always, for making me be more precise with my language. I appreciate that.
Christine, originally, when you came in, you were talking about putting the parking spaces in front of the house.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about buddy parking to the right.
Mm-hmm. So we came in with a plan from Mackenzie that depicted them on the right, but 2 on the right, side by side.
Oh,
And
is that
so
what
it
you're
came
proposing?
kind of in front, yes.
Okay, so you're not talking buddy parking, it's 2 spaces?
That was the Mackenzie proposal. Mackenzie did not wish to do the engineered plan, so we went to Needs LLC. And so that was the new plan that was circulated to you today, and that does show buddy parking.
That's what I thought. Now,
Yeah.
to the right of the property, you're getting really close to the property boundary,
Mhm.
so I don't think you can maintain the 5 feet.
No, I don't
So-
think we can either.
So we're talking about some relief on that area also?
Yes, there is an existing retaining wall between this property and the driveway next door, which is also closer than 5 feet, because everything's close,
Yes.
yes.
So is it gonna be side by side, or is it gonna be on the right side? Is it side by side, or is it gonna be buddy parking?
Buddy, and why don't I switch to that slide so you can
Okay,
see the
good.
condition.
Oh,
Which actually takes it away from the road frontage.
okay.
So this is the whole plan, there, except for the engineering stamps on the right. And I do have one which is a little closer up, so I'm gonna switch to that so we can see it more directly.
How close is it to the house? I don't see the measurement on here.
No, I don't see that measurement either. There are boulders depicted on the left-hand side of the property as a barrier in between the driveway and the house, but that measurement between the driveway and the house is not depicted. So for, again, thinking about what is the board going to do with this proceeding, this needs plan has been sent to Mr. Oliva for comment. He has not had sufficient time to make comment back, but I imagine the board would want to see that comment. I think there's some further measurements that should be depicted on this plan as well. And I'd be happy to go through those. But I think the point of today is we've gotten to the point where we have a draft plan proposing parking, and we're welcoming any board comment on that draft plan. As far as what I see as deficiencies in measurement, the measurement between the driveway and the lot boundary on the right-hand side, the measurement between the driveway and the house on the left-hand side. I do believe those are intended to be depicted as dimensionally linked parking spaces, but the width is depicted and not the length of 18 feet. So that should be added in.
Is that retaining wall actually on the property line? Do we know that?
This was a plan that was prepared as a result of an on-site measurement. And I believe that the line to the right of the dark wall is the actual boundary line. But that's also something that should be marked on the plan.
It was never clear to me who actually owned the retaining wall.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes retaining walls are duly owned by both parties because they straddle the boundary. And then both parties have an obligation to maintain them, which usually ends up in multiple problems.
If you're gonna put a driveway that close to the retaining wall,
Mm-hmm.
it's
So
gonna be interesting.
the purpose is to slope up, and you can see on the bottom right, the max slope is 1 to 12. The board had requested topography lines be marked on the plan. They are marked on the plan. Those are 1 foot increments from my reading of those measurements. So that there is over from the back to the front, I believe it's 4 foot drop altogether. So a portion of that would be removed in smoothing the grade. And a portion of the existing sidewalks would need to be removed. Now, if you look at the sidewalks, and I do have a couple of pictures that I'll show, there is already a slope of the sidewalk for accessibility purposes towards the driveway on the right side property. And then it is, there's an open curb cut there for the existing driveway. We would need to take the sloped sidewalk in front of the driveway out so that it is flat. And then we would have to also replace or reslope the sidewalk on at least the left-hand side for handicapped accessibility. Where it's already flat in front of the driveway on the right, we would not need to slope again on that side. It can remain flat.
Could you also, how many variances do you think you require here? 2?
What I think we need, and this is a special permit relief from parking regulations. And that was on the previous slide, so I can go back to that in a moment.
Well, my question is, you can't get the distance between two driveways
Mhm.
in a single property. Would that fall under the special permit?
The
Or
special,
is that a variance?
the special permit allows relief from parking regulations, is what it allows. And so our nonconformities, as far as I know, are, we don't have 5 feet from the property line, most likely on the right-hand side. And we had this little debate about what is a parking space and what is an access driveway last
Right.
time we were here.
Right.
But if we're asking for one relief, we might as well ask for another, and that is, given where the property line is, it seems to cut into the front yard. Relief from the 5-foot requirement setback from the front boundary line.
Have you had any feedback about the curb cut?
I had a meeting with Mr. Oliva initially, and so that was in the fall. He was kind enough to meet with me. His initial response was he didn't want any of the sidewalks removed because apparently they are newer. And he was concerned about the sloping of the sidewalks on either side. He additionally has some concern about drainage, but that is a citywide concern about the capacity of the drainage system. And one of the things discussed as a possible condition is using permeable pavement. I did discuss that with him, and he thought it would be a favorable way to address drainage. He did want to make sure that we stuck to the specifications as required in the DPW driveway permits. This plan is apparently what he would require for that process. We had a discussion about whether or not we would need relief for this being a second driveway. So that is the other issue. And while we can have a lot of fun debating the way terminology is set forth in the zoning ordinance, we're in for a penny, in for a pound. I would again state that's a parking regulation that can be modified, or relief can be granted under special permit. I'd be happy to go back to that portion of the ordinance if you would like to examine that issue.
So, Christine, did Oliver say that he would be in favor of a curb cut or not? I mean, you talked about drainage and the sidewalk, but I didn't hear you say specifically about the curb cut.
Is there a letter from
He was concerned about the relief being granted on the setbacks in the second driveway. He was concerned in general about the drainage and about the sidewalks and accessibility. He wanted to make sure that those conditions had been met. I don't want to speak for him. And I think that he needs a plan to look at and say, yes, this would be okay if the board grants relief, or no, it's not. I will say again, I had given that email to the board previously back from him. The initial email was, had a lot of concerns. After the discussion, and particularly the drainage issue and the sidewalk issue, Mr. Oliva was less concerned. But I don't want to stand here and speak for him. So I'll go back to that special permit issue.
So while you're there, could you just zoom in on that so I can read the contours, please?
I think the prior one has the markings of the contours more. So,
I think the other one was clearer,
I'll go to the other one.
please. Yeah, it has a markings on it.
So that's 1087.
So 1085, 1087, so that's a 2-foot drop
1086.
on that boulder wall.
So we have 1087 up here, 1086 at the top,
Yeah,
1085. So the dashed lines are 1 foot increments.
83.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I think down at the bottom here, it's cut off.
So, just a comment, would the, if we were to lean towards this one, would the applicant be in favor of doing a better solution than trying to place boulders on that? Because that's not really gonna be a, 2-3 foot tall boulders that are sitting on an embankment, they're gonna tend to slide off. Just a comment.
So a question on boulder stability, and is there another option, such as a retaining wall?
Yeah.
Anything else before I move from this slide?
So when you have, like, I've been by there and they have the stone wall in the middle. Is that what you're referring to as the existing retaining wall to hold? Because you're gonna be digging into the
Yes,
hill.
yes.
So what's gonna be holding back all that soil when you dig in? Are you
So-
gonna have a retaining wall to hold it back, or?
There's an existing retaining wall on the right, which is the dark line. And it would, if one side is removing material that supports the wall, they have the obligation to provide additional support to make sure the integrity of the wall is maintained. If it's a party wall shared by both sides, then reinforcement as necessary to replace the reinforcement of the earth that is removed
Okay,
would need to be added on the retaining wall unless the neighbor agreed to take the whole thing down.
and is the same thing gonna be true for the, I'll say the side by the house? Because you could have the same situation.
If there is a height that is sufficient, then we would need sufficient reinforcement, and Mr. Hank's comment, I think, goes directly to that point. Are the boulders sufficient reinforcement to retain the earth on that side so that it's stable soil abutting the driveway?
Well, my concern is if you start adding inches or feet to it, is that now gonna cause your 10 feet to be narrower? So could it be actually affecting the driveway or buddy parking, whichever way we're looking at it?
So if reinforcement on the right-hand side were needed, I could, I'm only guessing here, more space might be needed, but 9 by 18 is the size, so we do have an extra foot in width
Extra
to
foot?
play with.
I'm gonna go back to Mr. Hank's comment about the boulders along the left side.
Mhm.
Those boulders, I'm gonna try to walk myself through this, so you can help me. They're just gonna be placed there. Are they gonna be on any permanent foundation? Or will they be, the site prepared, then the boulders being placed there? And one is, how big are these boulders gonna be?
Well, there's a contour change of 2 to 3 feet, so you're talking some serious boulders, number one, to try and get there, and
And I'm looking if the boulders are gonna abut each other.
That's what's depicted on the plan.
They'll be abutting.
I imagine there might be a couple inches between them, but yes.
My concern is with nature, with water, rain, ice, snow, can start to move those boulders. And now we have a problem, especially like he mentioned, one could roll out. So there's nothing proposed or that you have mentioned that are gonna somehow connect these boulders together, so then they're all independent. And I mean, that could be rolling into the driveway. We know what winter does with water and ice and everything. It tends to move stuff. So I mean, that would be my concern of, how do you solidify that boulder wall? You know, is a boulder wall the best way? I'm not a contractor, but maybe a permanent retaining wall. You know, you're not gonna move that, and it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna have a base that's gonna be solid and solidified. And it replaces those boulders, which technically could move. You know, in a couple of years, one boulder's not gonna be where it was a few years ago. And they're not gonna be that easy to move. That's sort of the theory, thought, you know.
Well, that's my concern. I've played with boulders and they don't stay put.
Yeah, and
Believe
plus any rain will wash away dirt
Mm-hmm.
and then can dislodge a boulder, so maybe a boulder wall is not the best alternative.
Make that comment and address that with the engineer. I am sure Mr. Oliva will have a comment on that issue as well. So it is buddy parking, but again, this is for the third floor unit, so it is for one unit who should be able to manage tandem parking between each other. Really, I don't think there's any more to the plan than that for now. I do have some views of the street looking up and down. So this is a straight on of the proposed parking area, and you can see that the street slopes as well as that retaining wall.
Are they gonna, I was thinking of, with the snow, how are they gonna handle the snow removal for that area? Because I'm not sure what it, at the far end.
Snow removal will be pushed to the back, and the snow storage area should be marked on the plan, but simply push straight back.
Not seeing, what is the depth from the building to that big ledge?
I believe it's, so the boundary line for the property running back, I believe, is 90 feet. 90 feet plus or minus an inch on either side. And looking at the plan and thinking again of the pictures that we saw, I would say that 3/4 of the space behind the house is occupied by the ledge. These are views pulling out of the proposed parking area. So what would a car see looking out upon the street, looking to the right, looking to the left, and looking straight ahead? These are the pedestrian views, looking up and down the street, so the view here is unobstructed. It's particularly unobstructed because we did remove a tree, a very large tree that was in the middle of the parking area. So a pedestrian is going to have a clear view of any car exiting or entering this proposed space. I will go back to address the special permit provision if there's no other questions on this portion.
I just want to jump back to snow with David's question, and you said it'll be all pushed to the back. There's
Yes.
got to be a point that you only can push so much to the back. You know, it starts, we've had storms that maybe you end up with a couple of feet pushed back. And other storms, and I only think of this because I was looking at some pictures the other day, and my friend was with me, and we were standing next to the snow that had been pushed back in my yard, and it came to the top of his head. You know, he's probably about 5'10", but that's a lot of snow. You know, and then that's a lot of runoff. So Have they considered if there's so much snow that's pushed back there, at a certain point, it gets hauled out?
So we could certainly consider that as a provision or a condition, but I will say that the end of the last buddy parking space only extends half the depth of the house, so that there is definitively half the depth of the house remaining before you would hit any ledge. That would seem sufficient most of the time for
Okay,
snowstorm.
thank you.
Attorney Tree, is that a bulkhead on the side of the house where the driveway is
is.
being proposed? Okay, and there's sufficient room to get by that to push the snow?
I'm going to say yes. Again, this is supposed to be an on-site measured dimensional plan.
Okay.
The 10-foot width certainly does extend into the bulkhead, but just a little bit. There's certainly more space on the other side. I'm going to return to the special permit slide. Okay, so we're at 740 A2. So we have a provision allowing relief from parking regulations, either by special permit from the zoning boards of appeals, and then what you don't see is paragraph B from the planning board. So the ZBA may allow relief from parking regulations, and I'm looking at A2 in the case from one conforming use to another conforming use, which once a special permit is issued for a three-family, this would be conforming, that the lack of parking spaces will not create undue congestion or traffic hazards on or off the site. And I'm going to point back up to the beginning of this section saying relief from parking regulations may be granted. So when I see parking regulations, to me that refers to the entirety of the off-site parking section, including the provisions regarding having a second driveway and being 5 feet or less from the property line. That is the basis on which I see this as special permit relief. Okay. All right. We had submitted written responses to the special permit criteria and had gone through them at a prior meeting. I'm going to guess that the board wants to see the final markings, the responses on the questions that it asked, and a response from Mr. Oliva before it's ready to proceed to a vote on this case. So I think my presentation is done, but I'm happy to answer any other questions.
I'm good.
You good? David,
Yes?
Good.
you're good? Mr. Hanks?
So just to follow up, so if you go to the buddy parking spot, you're gonna need to require, would you require variance for that 5? Or are we just saying that because we're granted that authority under relief from parking
Mhm.
based on that provision?
So let me say that I find Gardner zoning ordinance challenging on parking at times. There is no definition of a
Agreed.
parking space. And there is no definition or provision that says parking cannot be tandem or buddy.
But typically, if a bylaw is silent, that usually means it's deemed prohibited. Just because it doesn't say it, usually a
Mhm.
bylaw ordinance in our case defines what is allowed, and usually if it's silent, that usually means it's not allowed.
Right, and that provision applies to uses in the table of uses. Parking is certainly a use that's allowed within Gardner. And we certainly have a thing called a parking space because we all use them. But we don't have a definition of what a parking space is. And without having a definition that says it is only side by side, or you can't have tandem, or if you have one before the other, you have to get a variance or a special permit, with zero definition of what a parking space is, but the word used rampantly throughout the ordinance, I would not say that this is a situation where you have something that is a use that's not defined. I would say that this is a structure that is not described other than its ordinary words in the ordinance. And when we have ordinary words, they're given ordinary meaning. These are spaces where people park their automobiles. The fact that they happen to be one in front of the other is not prohibited or allowed by the ordinance, neither. It is silent on the matter.
But typically, the lack of a definition, you can go to any other, you can go Merriam-Webster and say, look up what the definition of parking space is, and it may say parking for a single vehicle, or it may say, I don't know, I've never looked it up.
Yep.
But that's usually the way it goes, if your bylaw or ordinance is silent on a definition, correct?
Right, and I am sure, but I will certainly go ahead and pull it if we want to look at it. The definition of a parking space is an area where a motor vehicle is parked. And a buddy space meets that definition.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do, know that there's several revisions underway in the ordinance, and I do hope in the future that the parking regulations are a little revised so that we, at one point in time, had a discussion over, whether it was a multiple or a plural structure, and this in front and in back of the building parking space provision that's in there. I think it's needlessly confusing for applicants. I don't think they benefit the city particularly in the way that they're drawn, and I do hope that they're revised so that everything's clearer moving forward.
So my questions and comments weren't necessarily as a negative things. I'm just
No.
trying to wrap my head around what you said as you get to the parking regulations are challenging, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around where are we at with this and what relief would be required and what can be granted. I'm just trying to.
Absolutely. I have the benefit of the burden of being here for 2 cases today, one of which, the prior one, had buddy parking allowed without any specific mention. And I was not involved in the initial allowance of that case. I don't know if the issue was discussed on whether buddy parking was allowed or not allowed, but certainly it's happened with permission under the city's viewpoint. And so if this board does reach a determination that buddy parking is not allowed under the ordinance, then I would ask for the relief that in this case it be allowed by that special permit provision.
So that would be something that you're going to be asking for as part of the relief, is that to do a buddy parking, or are you saying that?
I'm saying I could.
Because lack of definition, you believe it could be by right without asking for a special?
I do. I think these are just 2 parking spaces. They're 2 parking spaces.
Okay.
And they happen to be one in front of the other.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanks.
Any questions, David?
No?
Well, I just want to add one other, just more of a comment than a question. I'm assuming that those 2 spaces would be determined for a single unit and not
Yes.
shared across multiple units.
No, they would be solely for the 30-floor unit.
Okay. And duly marked.
We can mark.
Oh, I'm done.
You're
She's like, thank God.
I do love a discussion about the dictionary, but I would like to go home today, and so would you.
I want to keep you as long as I have to be here.
Laurie, any questions from you?
I'm good.
Okay. Will you be presenting another plan updating or showing the actual what's gonna happen? I mean, there's a couple issues, I think, talking about the rocks, the boulders and things like that.
Yes,
So I think, what's out there on the table can be pretty much wrapped up in the next meeting that, you've gone over. You're gonna look at what happens about the curb cut, the sidewalk, the boulders, if there's gonna be any changes,
And the retaining wall,
and the retaining wall.
structure of the retaining wall.
And the dimensions, distances.
the missing dimensions on here, yes.
Well, those are
And-
pretty much the open items right now.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, would you like to ask the audience if there's anybody here for this?
I'm going to.
Okay.
All right, any further questions from my members?
No.
No,
Okay. So now, are there any abutters to the property who would like to speak in favor of this application? Any abutters to the property who would like to speak in favor of? Are there any abutters who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Any abutters who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Is there anyone that has any comments regarding this application, either for or against? I know there's no city officials in here, so I haven't called for city officials, but in case there's one I can't see, is there any city officials who would like to speak regarding this application? None. Okay, any further comments?
No, I look forward to seeing board members in June.
Members, the last shot.
I'm good. Seriously good.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to continue
We're
it?
gonna vote continuance.
Yes,
All right, so Attorney Tree, I'm sure you're gonna request a continuance on this one, so you can provide all the open answers to the open items.
I would request a continuance to the June meeting, where my client has paid several continuances fees. I would ask that this one and this one only be waived.
Charge a fee?
150.
Serious?
I've paid it several times, yes.
Well, so I missed part of it, but when would you like the continuance?
June meeting, please.
June?
Yes, sir.
Do we have the ability to waive a fee?
To waive a fee?
Yeah.
yes.
She says she pays $150 every time.
Every
we-
time she
That
continues.
is correct.
Okay. Well, she was asking if we would waive it.
Normally, we don't. You've done enough presentations and extensions. You will get one exemption for the June one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I
If it
appreciate-
needs to go beyond, then the fee schedule will be back in.
So do-
Understood.
Do we need to make a motion to that
To
effect?
continue.
Yes, make it.
I make a motion that we waive the continuation fee for 75 Oak Street. Second?
Second.
Any
this
discussion?
one time, right?
Just for one time.
This one time.
Any discussion? None? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next motion is to continue this case to the June meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any further discussion?
Nope.
None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? June meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board members. I hope you all have a great evening.
You too.
Happy Memorial Day. Take Monday off.
With a no Easter. Should be fun. Lots of rain.
Where's the barbecue?
It's taking a break.
He's not going to be sitting.
Just had to go to the bathroom.
2 years ago, and we had to replace the entire gas
We have not gone out to see Emerald Street, have we? Okay.
If you ever need any more slate, I have some in my yard.
You want to speed this thing up?
Is everybody getting up? I thought you were all leaving.
Thank you again. Good
Good
night.
night.
Hi, Kristen.
Okay, next case. Well, I'll
Road.
call it, but Dave's coming back.
Yeah,
It's case 2025-04, -01, it's a continuance, special permit, Stevens, Sine, 0 Emerald Street, parcel ID M22-25-5, construct 2 multi-family dwellings.
Just want to let the board know, appreciate your time tonight. I'm Stephen Sennett, the petitioner, and Mr. Crocker from Dilson Roy.
And he'll be your presenter, your agent.
Until you need to talk to me.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Ryan Proctor with Dilson Roy Civil Design Group in Lunenburg. Also for the record, this is a continuance, but I believe there was a legal error for the previous hearing, so we're essentially treating this as the opening, first time we're presenting the project as a whole. The project, as was read into the record, is the construction of 2 multifamily dwellings at 0 Emerald Street. Each structure would contain 3 units for a total of 6 units. Subsequent to filing with your board, we have also filed a site plan review application with the planning board, and we are currently working through that process with them now. We opened the public hearing with the planning board in April and received a memo from the engineering department, which we responded to since that meeting, and we issued revised documents, a response letter, and revised site plans, which I sent to Mariella last week. So the latest plans that you have are the plan that's on that poster board and the ones I will be discussing tonight. During the site plan review process, we received that memo from the engineering department. There were several comments primarily geared towards the drainage, the overall site layout of the lot with respect to the lot area, frontage, the building locations, building footprints, all has remained the same since the initial submission with your board. As part of the planning board process, we are proposing to consolidate 2 lots, 0 Emerald Street, and there is an additional parcel on the northern side of that lot that would be consolidated and separated into 2 conforming lots with your zoning ordinance, such that we can put 1 structure on each of those 2 new lots that we'd be creating on the 0 Emerald Street parcel.
You go that again? You talked about single, double, adjoining.
I can, so.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so the parcel on Emerald Street is proposed to be subdivided into 2 separate lots, each of which would contain 1 of the new multifamily structures. So you have 1 structure per lot, and each of those 2 lots would be conforming to your zoning.
If you're excuse me, if you're separating the lot, you're not creating any non-conforming lots, are you?
We're not, no.
Okay. I'll just clarify for sure.
Yep. Additionally, the structures that we're proposing are also conforming to your zoning setback requirements with the front yard, side yard, and rear yard setback, as well as lot coverage. Each unit we're proposing to access with a individual driveway. Each unit, will have a 1-car garage and will provide additional off-street parking within that driveway. One of the comments that we received from Rob Oliva, the city engineer, was relative to restoring the existing sidewalk within Emerald Street. So we are proposing to do that between and alongside the proposed curb cuts that we have. Each unit will have its own municipal water and sewer connection. That was again a comment from the city engineer that they have their separate utility connections, so we are proposing that, and that has been reflected on the revised plan. Lastly, with respect to stormwater generated with the development, we are proposing a network of roof drains and yard drains within the site, such that we are capturing runoff from all the impervious area on the site, so all of the driveways and all of the proposed roof areas, and routing those to a subsurface infiltration structure, which is on the lower right corner of the plan. That will all be contained and stored on site to provide storage of that runoff generated from the property.
Is that, excuse me, that gray area to the bottom, middle to the left? Yes, so that's sidewalk?
It's retaining wall.
Retaining
retaining
wall.
wall.
Okay.
So the,
Definitely need that.
yes, yeah, so it's just, for board members that are not familiar, it's a steep site that drops, it's level off the road, but then it does drop down pretty steeply towards Timpani Boulevard to the east
Now,
of the site.
how are you going to handle the drainage coming off of there?
So we have roof drains for the impervious areas. We have roof drains and gutter systems for both units, and that would be routed via catch basin and drainage manholes to that subsurface system.
So you minimize or prevent drainage down into Tivoli Boulevard?
We are. Yes, and part of the site plan review process is we did prepare and submit a stormwater report that documents the offsite runoff is reduced as a result of this proposed project by capturing the impervious in that system. I think that's all I'll say about the plan for now. Along with the site plan, I did submit an application narrative that speaks to the special permit criteria. Would the board appreciate if I went down those 9 criteria?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like me to read them verbatim, or should I summarize?
Say that again?
Should I read my responses verbatim for the record, or?
We've got people in the audience
Yep.
who are not familiar with them.
Yep.
I mean, you can highlight them, I think, and condense it a little,
Okay.
and then give your response.
I will do my best. Thank you. So there are 9 criteria for the special permit application. The first is the proposal shall be suitably located in the neighborhood in which it is proposed, and where the entire city shall be compatible with the neighborhood character, existing uses, and other uses permitted by right in the same district. So we're here seeking a special permit for the multifamily use of the property. We are in the GR3 residential zoning district, which the multifamily is allowed by granting of the special permit, and the lot is surrounded by residential uses only, so we feel that it's an appropriate use for this area.
I have a question.
Please.
This is more of, it's giving some background on Emerald Street. How many single-family homes are on Emerald Street, and how many multifamily homes are on Emerald Street?
So I don't have it printed. I did submit a lot locus, I think from the city GIS that has the breakdown. I think there is a variety of single.
Yeah, I mean, it's
duplexes and
probably
families.
pretty evenly distributed, but there are a significant number of multifamilies.
That's right.
And there are more than 3 families probably in there also, so. All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
Proceed.
So that was the first criteria. The second one, the proposal shall provide convenient and safe vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site and in relation to adjacent streets, property, and improvements. So again, we are providing adequate off-street parking for these so that we are not requiring the users or tenants of the facility to park on the street. We have the garage space and 2 off-street parking, and we are proposing to maintain the sidewalk within Emerald Street. And
Can you just point out the sidewalk for me on that?
So the existing sidewalk, the curb is this double dash line here,
Okay.
and then the sidewalk would cut through just on the apron of the driveway, so parking would not be
Well,
required.
is there an existing sidewalk?
It's heavily deteriorated, but yes.
That leads into my next question. That's, you
Yes.
answered. What is your plan regarding that sidewalk?
Restoration,
Yeah, so.
So you're gonna restore it to
city standards.
We are, yeah, that was a engineering.
a safe
comment.
and, get rid of the deterioration, because water and everything, sure. So it'd be just like a brand new sidewalk through there.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
You gonna go all the way down Emerald Street?
Absolutely not.
Try.
No, so I would say,
State your name and address, please.
Stephen Center.
Where do you live?
Oh, Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Thank you.
No more. Go ahead, fire.
So basically, the sidewalks, even though there's a section in the middle of the 2 lots that we wouldn't touch for construction, the intent is to replace that sidewalk in the entirety
A
from,
continuous sidewalk.
correct,
Yeah, so,
from property line to property line.
yeah, so you're not isolating the 2 parcels, so you'll be able to walk from A to B and B to A.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, what is the distance from the sidewalk to the garage, for example? It's the length of the driveway? Just approximately.
About 40 feet. We're 30 feet off the front property line roughly with the units. 35 feet probably. All right, I'll continue with the special permit criteria. The third item is the proposal shall provide adequate space for off-street parking, loading and unloading of vehicles, all goods, products, materials, and equipment incidental to normal operation, establishment, or use. Again, it's a residential proposed use. We are providing off-street parking with the garage space per unit and then within the driveway as well. The fourth criteria, the proposal shall provide adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities for proper operation of the proposed use and disposal of sewage, refuse, or other waste products and methods of drainage or surface water. I spoke to this in my opening remarks, but we are providing a stormwater system that will be contained on site to capture and infiltrate that stormwater generated from the property. We'll have the municipal water and sewer connections that will all be within Emerald Street for each unit. The fifth criteria, the proposal shall not constitute any nuisance due to air, water pollution, erosion, flood, noise, odor, dust, vibrations, lights, or visually offensive structures or site features. So in addition to the structures, the entire light green area that you see is all proposed to be grassed area. Currently, the site is wooded currently, but it is very dense vines. It's pretty tough to walk through. I was out a couple weeks ago. So we are intending to restore quite a bit of green space in excess of what's required for the open space calculation.
Question. Because of the nature of the property, and I'm not sure what the final is gonna look like in terms of, because I know how steep it is and everything, but you're gonna have water coming off the roofs of those buildings. How are you gonna direct that water? Are you gonna direct it away from the other buildings, down towards Timpani, or in the front? You know, because you're talking in the winter, you're gonna have a lot of snow and ice and melting.
Everything will be captured in gutters in a rain drain system. So it's all captured, there's no discharge on the surface.
Okay, so when it discharges from the gutters, which direction of the discharge? So are the gutters pointing towards Timpani, so forces the water down?
So they'll be tied in subsurface roof drainage system.
Okay.
Yep. And then drainage in the front, so we'll have a high point at the back of the sidewalk that we're restoring. So any water outside of the Emerald Street runway will actually run away from the street and into the yard drains that we have in front of, in between the house and the road. So everything will be contained on site.
These are yard drains up in the front.
Okay.
So Stephen, down below, isn't that your catch basins, your drainage system down bottom on that triangular system?
Yes, in the bottom right of the.
Down there, isn't that what those represent?
Yes.
Yes,
That's your,
correct. These are all subsurface drains.
yeah.
Thank you.
Also, kind of along with Ray's saying, because of the drainage, what are you gonna do for snow removal? How are you gonna handle snow? Because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of space in between the driveways.
Right.
They're gonna take it away.
No, so,
No snow.
so we did designate some areas on the, I wish.
Ryan has a different
No, that's
answer.
On top of that, on the layout plan we did, which is sheet 3 of the site plans, we did indicate some snow storage areas. It'll essentially be in the green space adjacent to the driveways where it's a little bit flatter and we haven't got to the breakout slope on the downside of the dwellings. So it'll be in between the driveways, in between the two lots, if you will, and then it'll all be in the front yard.
Will the people be responsible for removing their own snow? Because are these condos? What I read originally, they were condos.
So they'll be built as a multifamily.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
multifamily, but not
Correct. And
condos.
our intent typically is to sell them as condos. That is typically the intent. They'll be built that way, set up that way with an association with the intent of selling.
Okay, and so with an association, that association responsible for removal of the snow?
Correct. Correct. That'll be done in just lost the term for condo rules and regulations. So that's all spelled out, and that is something that can be amended or conditioned by the planning board, or this board, I guess, if they wanted to.
Okay.
So we could bring that back in for a review at that point in time if it.
Yeah, and I think if you're gonna have ultimately turn them into condos, and you're gonna have a condo association document, you know, I would think you would go speaking to the purchasers, maybe ahead of time, regarding like snow removal and everything, because they're not gonna see the document right away, even if it's one of the, we'll call it the tenants that live there. You know, they may live a year or two before it becomes a condo, and the snow is taken care of, and then what happens when it becomes a condo?
So prior to the purchase, we typically are almost required to produce the rules and regulations of the association as part of the offer in a purchase and sales agreement for any property. That's typically how it's gone over the years.
Okay.
You know, every realtor says they want to see the master deed, declaration of trust, and the rules and regulations. And that spells out, to your point, all the particulars of who's responsible for what, who owns what, who doesn't own what,
So,
what color doors can be painted, all kinds of regulations and rules.
so will there be one or two condo associations, because you have two, just one, for both parcels?
Correct.
Change it up a little. What is the grade between Emerald Street and the garages? Is it a significant drop, or, because I can't
No,
see from here?
so the proposed grade is 1% off the sidewalk and then away from the house as well. And then all the grading will happen after the garages on the downhill side of the houses. So you'll have a relatively flat front yard.
All set.
I'm good.
And then it's a large walkout basement too, so that change in elevation from the front yard to the backyard, pick up a substantial amount of that just with the buildings themselves.
All right, continue on. I believe I'm on item 6. The proposal shall not be a substantial inconvenience or hazard to abutters, vehicles, or pedestrians as determined by the special permit granting authority. As I mentioned, the houses are in compliance with the dimensional zoning setbacks, so they are adequately set back off the street and from the side property lines. And we are providing the off-street parking to avoid any potential impact to pedestrians or users of the sidewalk area along Emerald Street or users of the Emerald Street right-of-way. The 7th item, the proposal shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this chapter. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, this area contains several residential homes, mix of single and multifamily structures within the zoning district. So we feel like this structure is an appropriate use for this lot. Item 8, the proposal shall not have significant detrimental impact on city services, tax base, and employment opportunities. So as I mentioned, we are proposing to utilize the available city utilities, municipal water and sewer within the street. We expect the project to have an increase on the assessed and tax value of the property and market value, so we expect that this proposed project would have a positive impact on land and abutting property values.
I have a question. Were you gonna install a brand new sidewalk?
Yeah, he said he's gonna replace everything along
Yeah, are you gonna put some lighting at all along that sidewalk? You know, because it's a downward slope, I mean, it's gonna be neutralized a little bit, but I'm not sure what the lighting looks like or will be, you know, so you wanna light if people are walking through that sidewalk at night. You know, what reflection are they gonna get off of Tiffany, and what are you planning to, and I'm saying you don't have to, I'm asking if you are planning to install some kind of sidewalk lighting or street lighting or something like that in that location.
Not currently, no street lighting or sidewalk lighting. We could, if that's a consideration this board would like, I think that we could add additional, maybe some pole lights on the sidewalks for each of the units, and that would provide 6 additional lamp posts for the driveways. So I think I'd be fine with that as a condition that the planning board could include in their
Okay.
conditions.
And I think, you know, it's kind of early to say where you gotta put them, what the light intensity is, et cetera. But give it some consideration, and you're working with the planning board some more, make the proposal there.
Okay, and the last item for the special permit criteria is the proposal is consistent with the city's community development plan or master plan. So we are providing a variety of housing that is not necessarily single-family houses, which your master plan references that a majority of the houses recently have been single-family residential. So we are providing something different where maybe more affordable and in a different configuration than a traditional single-family home on a lot. And the last criteria is relative to a zoning map amendment, which is not applicable.
Well, the master plan hasn't been fully identified 100%.
Right.
But there is a meeting coming up within a few days that there's gonna be a commission starting to work on the master plan in its full capacity going forward, so,
Great.
you know, I think you're addressing part of what's gonna happen in the master plan, so.
Great. Excellent.
Okay.
think that's all I have to say. I know I've answered some questions along the way, but if the board has anything else, I'd be happy to take them.
Well, as long as you only had 9 items, so.
Right.
All right. First, I'll ask if my members have any questions of the gentleman.
No, good.
I'll go first. Who's dealing with the multiple driveways off the, is that through the planning board?
Yes, yeah, that's our assumption. So I think it was spoken about in a previous application, but the planning board does have the purview under the site plan review process
Yeah.
to grant such a waiver.
Okay, David, no?
No?
Good.
My questions were answered?
Well, I think, I don't go through if there's people interested, but I can say up front that I'm gonna recommend that we go out and do a site visit, even if nothing has started yet. So we can look at the property, see what it is, and you probably can answer some questions for us when we're there. You know, because I'm sure some questions will come about as we look at the property, because, I mean, most of us know what it looks like, you know, pretty steep. So you can answer how you're gonna handle that and mitigate any issues. And if you can, well, we'll see the sidewalk, it's gonna be there, you know, the old one, so we'll look at
It's
that.
it's tough to see, but
Okay,
And it has some building structures marked somehow, so we know what the
Good
building's
point.
gonna be.
okay.
yeah, so if you can, and I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy, spray can of paint, trying to catch where the corners are of the buildings. And then even say where the driveway is gonna exit out, so we can get a handle on building location, driveway location. Yeah, just a orange spray paint or something. Okay,
For availability for the board members,
excuse me?
the availability for the board members to meet, I'll meet you anytime you want. Can we set a meeting tonight for that?
We're gonna try.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so first, are there any abutters to the property would like to speak in favor of this application? Any abutters to the property to speak in favor? None. Any abutters would like to speak in opposition to this application? Ma'am?
I'm sorry, I don't have anything prepared. Just, I wasn't sure. I've been to
Could you-
several meetings already for the planning board, and I was here the last meeting that was.
Did you come up to the
Can you
microphone?
come right up to the mic, please?
Good evening.
And state your
Good
name and address, please.
My name is Phyllis Amberzewitz, and I live at 100 Emerald Street, the abutting building. And I'm concerned with the fact that they're going to be grading, and the fact that my property is going to be affected by whatever is done or not done. Snow removal is going to be a huge issue, because we don't have a place for snow removal right now. Our home is right on the sidewalk, such as it is. And any runoff that will go down from where it's not being graded is going to cause a problem to my home. And there are very low-lying areas towards the railroad track right now that collect water already. And along with the fact that it's 6 families in that small space is enormous.
Okay, now, you stated some concerns, and a lot of times, I'll call it off-record. You will meet with the developer or something, and they will address your concerns.
Mr. Senni
And
already
maybe-
has answered some of my questions. I do appreciate the fact that he's been willing to.
And, yeah,
I
and you
still
can
have-
mitigate some
I
issues.
still have concerns.
You know, conversation is good, so, but thank you really for, those are your concerns. Richard?
If you're facing this, are you to the right-hand side of the property or the left-hand side of the property?
My house is
You're over there?
right here, right there. in
Well,
my
this is gonna be a
place.
little hash mark, I can see it on the upper edge. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other abutters who would like to speak in opposition to this application? Are there any individual parties who would like to speak either for or against this application? Are there any individual, excuse me, parties to speak for or against this application? For the record, there are none.
Do you want us to answer any of those?
If you would like to address some comments that she made, you know, so it'll be part of the record and address her concerns.
And I just have, you know, Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, so on the side of the lot that.
Would you just give, one second?
One minute.
Did you want to
You
come
can
up
come
and
up
see this?
front.
Come on up front, please.
Come up front.
So you're looking at the same,
So
we're all
you
looking
can
at the
see
same thing.
exactly what he's talking about.
So the house is 35 feet from the property line, which is almost twice what the dimensional requirements are for multifamily housing.
She's on
She's
the
on
other
the
She's
other
on
end.
the other side.
She's on the other end.
No, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Oh, you were on that one?
Okay.
Okay, that's okay.
So, and then her house is upland, uphill from everything that we're doing. We have a swale that catches everything and directs, so actually, any runoff actually respectively would come off of their property onto ours, you know, existing, so.
We have a flat roof. Ours doesn't.
No, but I mean, just your property is above, you know, the elevation, it's above our property. So water would run from your property onto our property, not the other way, just for clarification on that. And then snow removal, we have areas for snow removal already on the plan, and those are all, that snow melt will be collected in rain drains and yard drains and directed into a subsurface system on the back part of our property. So no snow would be put, you know, there's no reason for any snow to be put on the street, on the sidewalks, or, you know, in front of her house. So if that, I don't know if that helped with it.
Yeah, and I think when the board visits, you can show a layout where the snow is gonna go, roughly. And I'm gonna ask this question right here, because when we go, normally, abutters and et cetera, they don't come to the site viewing. Some do. And if it's okay with the owner, that she can attend the site, and now the next part is, some developers, et cetera, won't allow the abutters to come onto their property. You know, if you would allow her to come so she can see what you're talking about? Okay, so you've got an open door when we go. You cannot ask a lot of questions, because we don't start the meeting again. It's really, the board will ask the questions, just trying for some clarification. And you're just a sort of a silent attendee.
And like I said, for the last 2 months, I'm more than happy to meet with her.
That, you can set that up between yourselves.
Yep, we've already done that through the planning board and directly with them, so I made myself available as soon as I was to the board.
Yeah, sometimes that's a great resolution when you meet off, I'll call it off-site.
May I just ask one more question?
Sure.
My concern with the fact that that was an iron foundry for 50 years that burned down, is there arsenic, boron, chromium, magnesium, vanadium? What's in that that's left over from the iron?
So we've already done a VOC test, soil test, and that's all come back negative.
Yeah, in the report, VOC, for anybody, is volatile organic compounds. But, I mean, you could probably provide her a copy of the report or something, she can see what it is, but, and it's on file, so anybody can really go in and get it. Okay?
Yeah, and anything that they turn into us is public record. You have every right to look at anything that we have. And he seems like he's very reasonable, that hopefully the two of you can discuss any issues and resolve them.
Yeah, you can work together and get it done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
As the statement is, when you work together, there's nothing you can't do. Okay, so does anyone else have any comments regarding this application? For the record, there are none. I'll ask my members if you have any further questions.
No further questions.
No further questions?
So, would we like to set a time to visit it?
Sure.
How about this weekend?
No.
What did you suggest?
In the monsoon weather?
Did you say Thursday, in the weather and the
Because I
rain?
won't be here.
He doesn't care. What does your schedule look like coming up over the next couple of
Whatever
weeks?
yours is what mine looks like.
Okay, that's fair. Come on.
You wanna do it on the weekends or during the week?
We'll see.
Because it stays lighter.
They work, so we can't do it during the week. I mean, we could do it like at 6 o'clock at night. Or 6:30, as long as it's light.
I have Fridays off, so
How about you, Mr. Hanks?
I could do a Friday.
30th?
I can't do it
30th?
this Friday, but I can do it the following Friday.
I could do,
30th. You can do it on the 30th?
could you do this Saturday?
Not me, I'm not gonna be here.
Okay,
The 30th is a
30th.
Friday?
So what we're doing?
May 30th. That's available for May.
that's, I'm good, I'm clean.
Yep,
Okay,
I'm fine.
May
You do the
30th,
May 30th,
it's a Friday.
It's wonderful, I'm wide open that day.
How about our neighbor? Can you do May 30th?
what time is good for you? What time is good for us?
I'm up at 5:30 in the morning, so you choose.
Well, it's certainly not gonna be 5:30 in the morning.
You wanna do it in the morning,
Yeah, I'd rather do it in the morning,
10 o'clock, 9:30,
9:30.
9:30
Is there?
on the 30th?
Everybody good, 9:30?
Yeah.
On Friday the 30th. Okay?
Okay,
Friday. I remember.
so Mariella, you can get that posted.
Laurie, would you set a reminder for me?
I will set a reminder for you.
So Mariella, you can get that posted on the wire and all that. Anytime from today on, you can get it out there. Okay. So no further questions for the gentleman?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna move for continuance.
I move that we continue this to the June meeting.
Second?
Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No opposition? Continue to the June zoning meeting. I don't know the exact date right now, but Mariella can give you the date.
Thank you for your time
17th.
tonight.
Hmm?
No, I'm good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll move on to the next case. Who's been so gracious to sit through all of this. The next case is, and I'm gonna ask a question after I identify the first one.
You do them all at once.
Case 2025 dash, oh no, we do have another one after 2025-05-01. Gary Collette and Joe Collette, 2119 Stephanie Drive. Parcel ID 17-15-3. Individualized driveways per condo, and you're gonna go lots C, E, and D. Is your presentation gonna be identical for all three?
Identical.
Or we can take them individually?
Same for all three.
Okay. You all comfortable with that? We'll
Yes.
take them all
Oh,
three.
yes.
Then let me name the others that we're looking at.
Changing over here.
Hmm?
Changing over
Yeah,
here.
Bob's.
Let me do this first.
Okay.
Okay, case 2025-05-03, variance Gary Collette, Joe Collette, 2119 Stephanie Drive, parcel ID 17-15-3, individualized driveways per condo lot D. And in case 2025-05-04, variance John, oh no, that's the wrong one. So we got C, D, and E. At this time, we're gonna change it, one the member. Mr. Antainer will be off this. Mr. Rice will take over as the third member. Okay? All right. The floor is yours.
Okay. You wanna go?
Gary Collette, 234 Collins Street, Gardner.
Move over and let him get behind the mic. Or whoever's gonna talk, get behind the mic.
234 Collins Street in Gardner. We just want to apply for a variance to do individual driveways instead of a shared driveway for each unit that we're building.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna ask a couple of questions. I'm looking at drawings here,
Yep.
and I'm kind of confused as to what the driveway is or where it is. When I first looked at it, I said, oh, there's 3 driveways to each unit. Apparently, that is not the case, correct?
Correct. No, it's 2 for each lot. 2 driveways per lot.
Okay, so that large spot in the middle,
Which
that's either grass or something. Your driveways are on the left and right of that?
correct, left and right. Are you looking at the building permit plan picture?
See, that's what I'm looking at, what you have.
How about this? Okay.
Is it the same one, Laurie?
Yeah, in the middle, that's just grass.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at dimensions. Lot C. I'm looking down and I see the driveway on the left, it says 20 feet.
Yes, yep. And
How
then-
wide?
That is how
That's
wide.
That's the width.
That's the width,
Okay,
and the
how
length
deep?
is, it's basically 25 feet for that,
25 by 20?
yes.
Okay, if I'm looking at the one on the right side, what are the dimensions of that one?
That would be 20 by 25, the same.
It's 25.6 on the one on the right as you look at it,
Yeah,
which means the one on the left is probably a little bit more because of the curve in the,
because, yep, the curve in the street.
How many families living in the building?
There are 2 condos per duplex,
Okay, so it's 2 condos or
Per
a
lot.
duplex.
2
So
family per
lot
lot.
C is 2 condos.
Yes,
Are these existing driveways or proposed?
the proposed.
What is is there existing driveways there now?
No, it's a new construction, completely new
Ah,
construction.
Okay.
This must be driveway night.
I know,
Yeah.
driveways and parking,
Yeah.
parking.
don't like parking. Park the car.
Harvard Road. All right.
Okay, I'll ask if you have any questions right now. So they're gonna exceed the 9 by 18. They're gonna be roughly 20 by 25.
Roughly.
And it appears they have all their offsets.
So your proposal is very similar to the prior one with driveways
Correct, yeah,
coming in.
yes.
Now, when you said a shared driveway, what was your definition of a
Uh,
shared driveway?
Kind of like the buddy driveway, whatever the attorney was saying for a term. Like
Tandem?
if you look, yeah, if you look at the plot plan page, that's what the driveway can be, what we're allowed to do. And that's what we're trying to change, to make them individual,
Why?
just to make it better.
Well,
It conforms, it'll conform better with the neighborhood, you have an individual instead of one mini parking lot in front of each duplex.
Okay, now, I'll hit the snow question. Every time you get a driveway, the snow question comes up.
Yeah,
Where do you plan to put it?
it'll have to be snow blowed into the grass either side.
Okay, how
Because they're really
much?
not that good of driveways for a snowplow.
It looks like you have plenty of room in the back, but not along the boundary markers on
Yeah,
the
right.
sides.
Can't get, there isn't enough room to go on the sides of the house.
There's what, about 5 feet I see here?
It's 5 feet off the line, yeah.
So you can run snow blowers down there.
Oh,
Yeah, or just go the other way, into the middle, at 30 feet.
Okay, now this is a variance. There's 3 items you have to address on a variance,
Okay.
not the 9 that that gentleman had. The
Right.
variances, I'll start with, what you're proposing, does it create or aggravate a safety hazard?
No, it does not.
Okay, that's too easy, why not?
It's a,
Yes and no answers don't go. You've got to validate why you're telling me no.
it's a flat lot, it's straight driveways. The streets aren't that busy, so backing in or pulling in won't create any.
How's the visual if you're backing out? Are there a lot of trees or
No
something that
trees.
may impede the?
They're cleared lots, there's no trees, it's
Okay.
pretty wide open.
Your request, does it derogate from the intent of the ordinance? I'll answer it for you.
Okay.
It does, because that's why you're here,
Yes.
that you are violating the ordinance.
Yes.
You're asking for something different. The hard one. Does your request, does it have something to do with shape, topography, soil conditions, et cetera? That's why you need the variance to do that. That's the tough one to answer.
Yes.
I'm not gonna answer that one for you. I want you, you've gotta figure that one. You need the variance because of shape, topography, soil conditions, et cetera, of the property. I'll give you an example. That house on Emerald Street, backyard goes like this. You would be asking for some changes of the driveway because you would have to put in a sub-foundation and bring in 50 yards of gravel to build it up.
Correct.
That would be a financial impact. So that's the type of thing we look at. So prepare your response.
I don't know.
well, the only reason that we're asking for the 2 straight driveways instead of the one in the middle is if you sell them as a condo, who's responsible for the driveway that's in the middle? So we're trying to save people fighting over this. So we'd like to give them each a driveway. You sell them as condo, they each own their own driveway. They don't split a driveway up. Now, all my sewage, excuse me, and my water lines are all in the middle of the house. So we'd like to put the 2 driveways so that you don't put the driveways over in case you need to go to the water line or the sewer line. This way you don't have to dig up a driveway or parking and stuff. It's the same thing with taking care of the snow. Who takes care of the driveway, right? So we give them each a driveway and they own the property outright. When it comes to the roof, it's a 50-50. If one's gotta get fixed, you do a 50-50, they both pay half and half, once they own it.
So that would be included in the legal document.
Well, it will be included in, say now, we've got the first building up, we have the permit to build 3 of them. We're only asking for the driveway problem, and we're trying to save fighting over to whoever buys the property. It's your turn to plow, it's my turn to cut, to do the stuff.
A question, and you
We're
hit a
just
point.
trying to save it.
You said, well, if we have one driveway and my sewer and water lines here, and I'd have to dig all that up,
That's right, if something happens.
how much, what's the expense to do that? And install new ones?
Yeah, it's all new, but you never know, something's gonna happen. Who would like to dig up their driveway or dig up loom to get to the problem? Loom don't cost much and seed, but a driveway costs a little bit.
So,
So- Go right ahead.
so right now, these structures don't exist.
One does.
So
Lot
you,
C exists, because we're in the process of building. So we're just doing this now to get ahead of our driveways.
so,
Put them in.
so you've already designed these with the garages on the far ends without knowing you have any relief from us yet?
No garages, just driveways.
Well, there's no garages on these, just driveways?
Just driveways.
So, no garages.
So as far as water and sewer connections, you can locate those, if the driveway was dead center and each party shared
Right.
half, you could still do your water sewer connections on the grass area to the left or right of the driveway,
Correct.
because you haven't done your connections yet.
Well, the connections on the first house is done.
I'm
We're
still
only
going
asking
after,
if we can change the driveways, just that. And plus it would match the whole street. They have a running driveway to their house, but where we started, we were allowed to put a duplex there, so we figured we put condos instead, which is it's like a duplex. And we decided if we could put the driveways to match the rest of the street. Two, you know,
Is that a town road, city road?
yes.
Even when it gets to the condos and other duplexes beyond you?
Well, if somebody would come there and buy the whole building, I mean, they can use it as a condo.
Yeah, but further beyond you, is that not a bunch of duplexes already?
Behind, yes.
But
It's
it's
a
just
different,
off,
it's another street.
oh, it's a different street?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll go back to my question, though. If you had to dig all this up, approximate cost,
To dig up the driveways? Okay, well, we're kinda waiting to see if we allow us to do it, where he's gonna give us a price, how much it would do it for two driveways or one. Well, we talked to him about it, and he figures it's probably about the same cost.
I think what Mr. LaFond is asking is what the cost would be if you had to dig up pavement to make a
Well,
correction.
how much it would cost to dig one up? Well, it'll cost me about $6,000 per driveway,
per driveway,
per driveway.
and how much to install new lines and everything.
Well, a new lawn, it's everything that goes to the street.
At the moment, they're charging 8,000 per unit. Yeah, so it would probably be around that area.
All right. Questions?
No, I'd like to, I'd definitely like to view this place.
I guess I'm not seeing a hardship. I'm not seeing anything related to shape of topography or financial. If they're brand new builds, that's just what I'm seeing. I don't know if anybody see anything differently.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at, if he had it in
Well, I
and
understand.
trying to tear it up.
So you see, the tough part that we have is in order to grant the variance, you have to have a hardship of a sort, being it's something unique to the property that doesn't exist elsewhere. You got ledge, or you got wetlands, or you got the septic system in the front yard. You have to have a reason for us to be able to grant the variance. It's not just because it's a preferential thing that would be nicer to have a drive on each end versus one comma and one in the middle. So my opinion is that we're kind of bound by, we just can't, just because that it's a preference thing, we just can't deal with preference. It has to be a form of a hardship.
That's why I talked about due to topography, and soil conditions. I mean, right now, it looks like what you'll do is just come in with your equipment, put the base down, and you put your blacktop down, and end of story.
Yeah,
Yep, there's no special digging or anything like that.
right.
I still would like to come down and see it, and I want to look at the rest of the neighborhood too. So, you
wanna do
okay
a
with
sidewalk?
that?
You wanna do a sidewalk?
Yeah, maybe we can do it on the 30th,
Sure.
when we finish Emerald Street. Go right over to Stephanie
Would
Drive.
you be available on the 30th of
Yep,
May?
will be available, yep.
So we probably, what, 10 o'clock then?
What did we say,
We
9:30?
said
Yeah.
9:30 for Emerald.
I would say between 10 and 10:30.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
We can be there anytime. We're,
I would say be there at 10:15 anyway.
Be there for 10 and hang around and wait for us.
Yeah.
That'd be a safe.
We'll be there working, so.
I'll go on my own, I'm not gonna be around on the 30th.
You're already gone?
Already gone?
Oh, man.
It's all right, we can handle it.
I'll go and take a look at it on my own.
Let me ask if, well, there's only that gentleman, Mr. Augusto?
yeah.
All right, sit tight, we're coming. All right, so I'm not gonna go through the liturgy of abutters for, against city
For the
officials.
record, there's no one left in the audience.
There's nobody in the audience except the next applicant. So, I'll pass that, so,
The 30th, could it be done a little bit sooner? I'm just asking the question for a reason, the 30th.
I'll be there.
Oh, you'll be around, okay. I won't be there.
that's what happens, when you have 5 people trying to line 5 calendars up, it gets hard.
Okay, no, that's okay.
All right, so do I hear, let me first, we're gonna have to continue your case, because we're gonna go view it, see it, et cetera, so if you're okay, would you take a continuance to June?
June? Well, it's more or less the people that wants to do the driveway, they're kind of waiting to
So
see.
you have two choices.
But
We
I
vote-
know it's-
We vote tonight, or we continue to June, so we can go see your site and make it, to get a better feel for what you're trying to do. So if you don't continue, we'd have to vote tonight and close your hearing.
No, I mean, yeah, if it's June, it's June, I mean,
We could vote tonight if you like.
huh?
We could vote tonight if you'd like.
What is that?
Would you like them to vote tonight or continue it?
You don't, what do you want to do? Vote tonight? Well, if you want to vote tonight, it's either I do the middle driveway or we do the separate. I mean, there's only 2 ways out there.
That's
So-
correct. You know, I mean, you haven't given us a lot of information for the hardship part. That's why, and I'm not thinking that we're gonna see a lot, but that's why I'm proposing we go out and take a look at the site,
Okay.
et cetera, and then we would vote in the June meeting.
It would delay us a little bit because of the, you want to vote tonight? No.
This is like Shark Tank,
I know, right?
negotiating on our deal.
My only problem with that is we're on the verge of putting one on the market, and all we need to do
I
is
understand.
put the front step. And to put the front step, we need to know where the driveways are going first, so that we can put the step, and then they can do the driveway. And that will back us up at least a couple of weeks.
Well, I think as Mr. Hanks was saying, we would vote on the information we have tonight,
Yes.
you know, and that's it. And
I don't think your information will change even if you see the property. That's- So we're thinking maybe you just vote tonight.
Vote tonight? Okay. You want to vote
Or
tonight?
they can withdraw with.
But you're welcome to come and look at the property. It will be on sale.
now, that's after the fact. That's if you choose to appeal the case, and then we have to go to court and all that. Then we have to come out and see it. And then it'll be a lot later than June, by the time the courts get going and the decision's made.
And
So,
if
just a
it's-
heads up.
And if it's denied, it'll be, you can't do much in terms of appealing for about 2 years.
Well, then we'll wait till June, okay? You want to wait? We'll wait till June because, you know, you could probably vote better if you see the property.
I make no guarantees. We're
No-
gonna
no
look and see what we
guarantees.
get. And we're gonna look at the neighborhood too at the same time.
Yeah. Myself, I think the smartest move would be the 2 driveways because it would meet the streets and everything, then the middle parking lot.
You know,
But I know it'll be up to you guys.
I mean, we can tend to agree with you, But we have the ordinance that we have to go by. That's our rule book. And that's what we have to work on. You know,
Okay.
it might be the best thing, but under the ordinance, it's really not allowed. So we don't have any choice.
Yeah.
The only choice you have, if we render a decision saying the negative and saying no, you can appeal this and go to court. But that's gonna slow you down. It's not gonna be, you won't even be in the ground in June. They'll be between the lawyers lining it up in court and everything. It'll probably be September, the earliest, before you get an answer from the judge.
Okay.
So,
Well, even in June, when you vote on it, it'll either be for the two or just the single.
It's a yes or no. We either
Right.
approve what you're asking for, or we deny what you're asking for.
Yeah, in other words, if we do the middle, we do the middle, but we think that it's not right to do it that way. That's the only thing we're doing. Trying to get it done the right way. And to meet the street, and if it takes till June, it's better to wait till June than to be denied. Is that what you're saying?
But you have no guarantee in June either.
No, we don't have any guarantee.
You have an opportunity to do a site walk on May 30th. As the chair was saying, that we'll look at the rest of the neighborhood, you can show us what you're talking about, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
We'll come back in June, we'll deliberate, we'll talk about it, and see if you raise to the level of us being able to grant you a variance, to legally grant you a variance is probably the term I should use. Because we are bound by the terms of the ordinance that says you're allowed one, and you're asking for something above and beyond that we don't allow other than a variance, but you have to show a hardship. Usually it's something unique to your property, it's the soil, it's topography, you got lead, so you can't do it elsewhere, you got a septic system in your front yard, so you can't, there's something that's forcing you to ask us to do this outside of what the regulations tell us to do.
Okay.
That's the burden is on you, you have to present to us why this is a hardship to you. Okay?
Okay. Wait a minute.
Okay, we set for the 30th?
Joe?
you wanna go to June, or
Yes.
Yes.
yes or no? Because, you know, I wanna move on to the next.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
poor guy's out, he's sleeping back there.
We'll do June.
June? Okay, do I have a motion to go to June?
I make a motion to go to the June meeting as a continuance for Stephanie Drive.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor to continue this case to June? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. We'll see you May 30th, probably between 10:15 and 10:30.
We'll be there.
Yeah, so get all your information together and get ready to present it.
Now, Mariella will have a form for you to sign, correct?
I do have a form for continuation, but do you want them to sign that right now?
Well, unless they come in tomorrow
Unless
morning,
they'll come in tomorrow.
I will not be.
Oh, you won't be here.
then I'd like them to sign it tonight. If you can just wait a couple minutes, she's gonna get a document you have to sign, that you agree to go that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can go, just sign it, and I'll enter the rest of the information. Just sign it. They are the one requesting the continuation, right?
The what?
They are
Yes.
the ones requesting the continuation. There's a fee of $150 for the continuation.
Well, Mr. Augusto,
Come on up here, last contestant of the evening.
I think it's break time.
Yeah, break time?
I'm with you.
Boy, I wish I had coffee this evening.
Yeah. Okay, the next case is 2025-05-04, Jonathan Augusto, 353 Otter River Road, parcel ID C37-7-3, a second driveway to access a building.
Yep.
So, your presentation, sir.
It's Jonathan
And also
Augusto.
your variance, too.
Yes, variance, yes. Jonathan Augusto, I live at 353 Otter River Road, as you stated, been there for 30 years. I'm looking for a variance for a second driveway for a building I'm gonna have constructed back there. I have an abutting property, which I think you can see, my land's kind of almost like a pie, the Gardner, and the backside of my property is Winchendon. If you didn't know it, you'd think it was all one property because I mow it all and everything back there where I'd like to have this building. I already talked to the Winchendon building inspector. So the building I want to put up, I cannot access from the driveway I have now because, as you were stating, I do have septic. They're all septic systems out there. And I have a well. I cannot go around the left side of my house because about 20 feet over, it's straight down to the Otter River. There's an Otter River river back there. And then it goes over my septic, and I'd have to go way around. The only part I have is from the front, which is, I think I have a couple of pictures in there, that it's flat, there's no trees, and I just want a straight shot to go back to the building. And the photo I have one from the back where the building would be, and from the front off the road. And this is for storage for myself. And it sets back far enough. I've already discussed it with my neighbors where I have great neighbors anyway, but it sits back where there's a row of trees, nobody sees it or anything like that.
And I think, you know, the building is on Winchendon property.
It is on Winchendon, it's right, like if you didn't, like I said, if you didn't know it, it would abut, I mean, you think it was all one piece of land, because I mow it all and everything, I've been there for 30 years.
So I'm looking,
Is this driveway off of the same road?
Yeah, it's off of Water River Road. And I had
And
talked, yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What's the distance between them?
173 feet. I have 400 and something road frontage, but the way my house is situated right now, if it was over to the left, I'd have the 200 feet I need. And I still have that road frontage there, but the way the house is situated, because I talked to the building commissioner, and he said, if you have 200 feet, you don't have to go get a variance.
that's correct.
I'm at 173 after I measured, so I came back and talked to him. He said,
So
no, you gotta go for
You're
it.
off by 17 feet.
Yeah. And I think I have, where on there, my neighbor's property, the butting my property, their house is at 12 feet from my property.
So clarify something for me, sir. So that's your property in,
Can I come on a little bit?
yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Is all of this frontage yours?
No, you see that,
Just this one?
yes, just that plot right there, the back part is the Winchendon property.
This right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, the pyramid-shaped parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Like this one here,
Thank you.
like you were seeing on there, I just blew it up. This is where my house is, right here, and the driveway would just go back here to the property. I'm putting it on that property, so it's not in the way of these neighbors or anything like that. It's landlocked, I don't have any other access to it, it's not buildable.
Is that all on one deed though?
Yeah, the deed should be in that.
Because there's already a couple of structures on the Winchendon side.
Those are gone, I think they were a chicken coop when I first moved in, and it was like there were a couple of them, like I had chickens back there.
Are you the little Cape House?
No, do you know where the old Otter River swimming pool was years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're coming from Otter River on 68, you come up, you got the Otter River swimming pool, you come up, there's a house that kind of sits, looks like it sits down in the
Yeah,
ground.
Chickwins.
Yes, I'm the next house up,
You're the next one?
yes. Yep.
This is your house right here,
Yes, sir.
and what are these little buildings?
Those were the old, there was a sauna that the Finnish people had there that's all been torn down, and the other one was a chicken coop on the Winchendon
Is
property.
that still there?
No, those have been long torn down since I moved in years ago. They were all rotted.
I think I would have liked to have seen a proposed location on a plot plan where the new building's gonna be, where your existing driveway is, where your septic is, where your well is.
Did I have that? Oh, I don't think I had the build where the building was gonna be. I don't have the septic system. It's right behind my house. I hate to keep approaching, I'm not trying to be rude.
Oh, no,
No.
you're fine.
Now, my house is here, okay? It's a 70-something foot ranch, it's kinda long.
Yep.
If you go around this side, right around the back here, okay, that's where my septic system is, right back here. My garage is here, the septic system's right here. I cannot drive, right here is where the Otter River comes down, it comes behind. I cannot, and it goes straight down. I cannot drive over my septic system. The only access I would have is the building being right here, is to straight on like that. That's all I
Right,
would have.
which is what I was getting at with the other people, but it'd be nice if you had it on a plan.
I
So
did,
that
yeah. This is my, this is all new to me. I've
Yeah,
never
that's
done this
cool,
before.
that's all right,
You're doing fine.
that's fine.
I
Now,
was asking questions to people trying to answer some of this stuff. I'm like, I'm watching this lady up here today, the lawyer. and I'm like,
the
oh,
attorney,
boy, I'm in
always get
trouble.
PowerPoints and everything, huh?
Yeah, so.
So I'm gonna reiterate what I was
Yeah.
saying to
Yes, sir.
to the other people, is that you have to show us something that we can have the ability to grant you a
Yeah.
variance, because it's, there's something unique to your property. Like you're saying, your septic's in the way, or
Yep.
you got the Otter River way over here, which that's a river, you probably gotta stay 200 feet off of that, because riverfront, right?
Yes, sir.
You got a house, garage already, whatever the case may be, but it'd be nice if it was on a plan that we could look at, and you
Yeah.
say, this is my existing driveway is for my house, this is where the driveway's gonna be for this new building, and
Yeah.
here's where my new building's gonna be.
I understand that. I think the only picture I have there, it's not a picture, it's where my driveway is on one of those, and it's 173 feet to the other driveway. Do I have that on there, on you guys? Should be in that packet.
You do.
Oh, this one shows your house. Yes, I'm not even sure what side of the house you're trying to put this
On
driveway.
the right.
Up the left or the right?
Because this is the road right here, you're looking at the road,
Yeah,
and if I'm looking at my house, I'm gonna put it on the right side.
on the right-hand side, so you
Yes, sir.
get further away from the Otter River.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay, I see
Yeah.
you plan to put in a building.
It was measured, on the top corner, it'll tell you how many feet, it's 173 feet, I measured that out. So between my property line and my house is like 90 feet between the two, just to put that straight driveway. in.
Yeah, so right now, your driveway's on the left-hand side
Yes,
of the
sir.
house.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's all, yeah, right on the left side.
So you can't put the structure on the left-hand side
No.
because you'd be approaching on wetlands.
Yes,
And septic system.
and my septic
And
system
as
comes around,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah,
I see where you're going.
yeah. And I it was the big thing of putting it on the Winchendon property, but the Winchendon, like I said, if you, I mow it all the time and all that, and it goes back a ways. I mow it to where I wanna put the building. And I had talked to the Winchendon building inspector, and he said, yeah, I can do it, because I'm far enough away on that backside, but it's just getting a variance now, because I thought I was 200 feet, but after I measured it, I had to come get a variance, go for a variance after I talked to the building commissioner.
So your driveway would be how wide and would be paved?
I would get it done, but I don't think I could pave it this year. That's the only thing. I would do gravel it, make it nice. I don't wanna just, so I see people run over their lawns and stuff like that. I don't wanna do that and make it look like Sanford and Son.
No, I know it's
for lack of a
property,
better word, you know what
your
I
property
mean?
looks nice, I
Yeah, I
drive
just-
by it frequently.
Yeah, and I just wanna make sure I can put a straight driveway in. I'd do gravel, pack it all, make sure it was good, and then eventually I would tar it, yeah.
Do we have a regulation of an apron having to be paved on a driveway? No?
And we don't have really a regulation to pave the driveway.
Okay.
Right.
No, so you really, in the paving part, you got two choices. You can go, I call it permanent, and then the crushed.
Yeah, the millings or regrinds, what do you
Yeah,
call
the
it?
Yeah,
regrinds.
correct, yes.
And that actually works pretty good too.
Yes,
And it
sir.
allows the
And it's
water to drain
impervious,
through.
not impervious.
Yeah, non-impervious and impervious. So, I mean, you got the three items. Are you creating a safety hazard?
Yeah, I think I wrote that down.
It's
in
all
there.
written in there.
Yeah, I did, those questions were a little confusing to me, I answered them the best I could.
You actually did a good job.
Okay.
Yeah, not bad.
Same thing, are you derogating from the ordinance? Yes,
Yeah,
That's
from
right
what I
here.
have, yeah.
but the part is to provide the hardship due to shape, topography, and soil conditions. You've presented quite a few good facts of why you can't do it where you're supposed to do it.
Yes, sir.
As Mr. Hanks said, it would have been nice to have one
Yeah,
of these.
I tried to do the best I could, and like I said, I apologize, this is my first time, like I said, I've been here 30 years, but I've never gone before a board or anything like that for anything.
Most people never come before this board, so they don't really.
Well, I got a
know.
little nervous when I was watching the lawyer up here, so.
So if I'm
Yes.
facing your house, and I know your garage is on the left-hand side, where's your septic in relation to that? Is it further to the left?
Further to the right, and then straight back. Do you mind if I come up there and show you?
Yeah, come on up.
Just make it easier for us.
All right, I'm coming around.
Oh, yeah,
Come on, Ricky,
You
please.
come to us, thank you.
All right, yeah, no problem.
So, I see the
Yeah, you
shadow
can
of
just
your
see the
house.
shadow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my garage is there. My
Right.
septic system is probably about off of here, straight
Also,
off the back.
it's out the back.
Yes.
And on this left-hand side, you got all this wetland, you got the other river, which.
Yeah, I mow a little bit on this side,
Yeah.
but then it goes straight down to the river that comes around.
Yeah, I don't see any other place he could put a garage other than where he's proposing it.
No. So I'll ask my two other members here. Do you have any questions, this gentleman?
No.
Any comments? Well? You?
I'm good, actually.
I would propose that we
Grant this,
vote on this tonight.
vote on this tonight. That's probably better terminology.
I would actually make a motion to grant relief to Mr. Augusto due to the hardships on the left side of his house.
Based on.
Okay, and then the decision write-up, we've got to address still the sewer,
Septic,
the river,
well,
the
and
well,
river.
and all that, so it has to be in there. Okay, so what is your motion, Lori?
My motion is to approve the request.
Second.
Who seconded? Did you second?
I did.
You can-
Great. Any discussion? None? Then all in favor of granting this variance to Mr. Augusto?
Aye.
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 Approved.
Thank
Variance
you.
approved.
Thank you very much, and like I
Now,
said,
then you probably don't know how this works after.
no, I don't.
So take a
You're not off
breath,
the hook yet.
because you got a couple more days to wait.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, so we have 2 weeks to write your decision.
Yes,
We try to get it done no more than a week.
okay.
When you receive the decision, it's gonna be time-stamped. And that's because of the city clerk. You cannot do, well, legally, any construction or activity for 20 days till you're notified that nobody has appealed this decision. Once you get the approval that nobody's appealed, you'll get a copy of that decision.
Yeah.
You have to take it to the registry of deeds, et cetera, for the county or district. Get it recorded, it'll be on your deed, and it'll stay there forever.
Okay.
Okay, and once that happens, you can go and do what you gotta do.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, just bring that to the registry of deeds in Worcester, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
people bring it personally, some people give it to an attorney, they do it electronically.
Oh, okay.
It all depends on if you wanna go to Worcester.
It's not that bad.
Or you could call Attorney Tree and she might take care.
You're not promoting anybody,
Or I should say, any attorney.
any attorney.
All right.
But
Good.
thank you. Hey,
And thank you very much, appreciate it, and sorry, like, I tried to do the best I could on that, so.
You did well.
If this is your first time, you did pretty darn good, I'll tell you.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much, I appreciate everything, it was very nice meeting you all.
Have a good night.
Okay, you too, and sorry, I
Thank you.
kept you be the last
So
one.
it's probably a good thing you waited to the end.
okay, there are no minutes, no minutes, no
Well, we still have to
correspondence.
vote on the minutes from the last meeting that we didn't vote on, correct?
We do.
Let's see what we got.
Last thing on our agenda, it's on the back side of the page.
The last time we had, 2 different minutes, everyone signed as they agreed, but I did not hear.
We never made a motion to
A
approve.
motion to
So do I have a motion, these are the April minutes?
We make a motion, we approve the
April
April
15th
April
minutes.
15th minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Yeah.
Did you just step, no, I didn't step on you. Okay. Sorry. I did bring coffee, it didn't help.
You know. Did we sign what we already signed before?
There we go. That's that one. Bob Rice, I need yours. Dave Antea.
So Mariella keeps on them, right? Keeps adding to them.
Just for the record, may I ask for the, minutes of March and February to be approved, just for the record?
And make a motion, we approve the March,
February and March.
February, March 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? This is in the correspondence here. From James LeBlanc, summary of May 1st start 2024 to April 31st, 2025. Maintenance and erosion, I know what this is, maintenance and erosion map X 17-32-2, book 4437-338. We had a shorter than normal season in 2024. For the 7 months we were running, there were no issues with erosion or complaints from neighbors on the other side of the tracks or anyone in the industrial park. Submitted James LeBlanc, President, Mackey Building Centers. This is a case we worked on, what, about 3 years ago or 4 years ago?
It was a long time ago.
In the back, they do production like the windows and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Plus, they had a big, like a sand hill. And they had to change the topography and they had to move dirt around,
Oh,
haul dirt out.
okay.
And he, till they get it completed, he has to report on an annual basis of any complaints that come in and if they had any issues at all. And this just gets it done that they were okay for this year. Because when I first got it at home, I'm like, what the heck is this? And then when I saw Mackey, I said, oh, I know what it is. We don't have to sign off, it's just, we acknowledge the
For
receipt.
information.
It's just a
only.
heads up.
Yep.
Okay. Any further business before the board? So we'll see everybody on May 30th at 9:30 to start the day and hopefully finish it off by 10:30.
But not Mr. Rice, because he'll be gone.
I'll be in New York City.
New York City.
Now we got two we gotta handle,
What the?
David and Bob Rice.
Oh, good for you
It
guys.
must be a
Very good.
requirement to have to travel a lot. here to
Yeah,
be on this board.
won't be me.
Ready? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Meeting adjourned.